everyone, it's Christina with Christina Cakes It, and today we're going to be making a goat cake. So I've seen a lot of really cute farm animal cakes on social media. I've seen like sheep, I've seen cows, but I really haven't seen any goat cakes, and so I decided it would be really cute to make one for my channel. But there's actually going to be a twist on this goat cake because this is going to be a Tom Brady goat, because everybody knows that Tom Brady is the GOAT, the greatest of all time. So to make our cake, there are several steps. The first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to cut and carve the shape of my cake. I'm going to frost it and put some fondant over it. From there, I'm going to cut out all the different fondant details for my goat and place them on the cake. And then I'm going to stack it and finish the cake with some final details. So to get started, I'm going to go ahead and cut my cake in the shape of a goat head. So for my goat, I have two 6-inch layers, and I did give a crumb coat on this because I've actually made this cake yesterday and I didn't want it to dry out. And so goats kind of have like long faces. I spent a lot of time trying to like figure out the template for this, and I drew like a million goat faces. And so what I came up with was that goats do have very long faces. So I am going to carve away some of my cake to give it that shape. So I'm just placing my template over the cake, and I'm going to carefully cut around it. So after I cut away some of that extra cake, I'm just going to cover this with some buttercream icing before I cover it in fondant. So after I coat this in a light coating of buttercream, I am going to put this in the fridge to chill a little bit because I do want this crusted before I cover it in fondant. So I did make a few things ahead of time. You guys can see that I have the ears here that I'm going to attach to the side of the cake. I did want to make them ahead of time because I wanted them to harden so they wouldn't like flop over. So I'm going to show you guys how I made those. And then I also made our little goat horns ahead of time as well. So I'm going to go ahead and make a fresh set so that you guys can see how I did this. And what I'm using is just some of my own homemade marshmallow fondant. So I decided to make my goat brown just for like some color contrast, but obviously you guys can make your goat whatever color you'd like. So I'm just gonna roll this out, and I have an ear template here. And just cut around this. And then of course you are gonna wanna do this for the other side. And you're just gonna take your template and flip it that way for the left ear. So I'm gonna go ahead and make an indentation here, kind of like the fold of the ear. And I might go back in and shade some of that. I'm not sure yet. So that's the front of our ear that's gonna stick out the cake. And I'm going to attach a cake pop stick to this so that it will stick in the cake more easily. So I'm just gonna cut a rectangle out of my fondant. So I cut this in half because our cake is kind of small and we don't need a full cake pop stick. So I'm just gonna put some Wilton dab and hold down here and place my stick. And I'm going to place my fondant rectangle over this and kind of smash it down so that will hold my stick. So these are gonna dry, like I said, overnight. Oops. And when they are done, you're gonna have a nice ear that holds its shape. So I did also make my goat horns ahead of time. So again, because I wanted them not to like flop over, they're gonna stick out from the cake. So I'll show you guys what I did there. So for this, I just used some fondant that I dyed ivory using AmeriColor Ivory. And for these, I didn't use a template, I just cut them freehand. I'm gonna take my horn and flip it so that I have the same size. So again, you want those to dry overnight. So the next detail I'm gonna make is, our goat is actually gonna be a billy goat. So he has a little beard. So I also made this ahead of time because again, it's gonna stick out from the cake, and I wanted it to like hold its shape straight out. So what I did for this is I had my template, and I know that this is gonna come from our little billy goat's chin. And I just kind of made a little beard like that. And you guys can make it longer if you'd like, or like a different shape. And then I put some indentations here. I think I'm actually going to add some like buttercream frosting, like lines, to give it some texture, but I haven't decided yet. So that's the other piece that I did make ahead of time for my cake. That's gonna go right there. So I think my cake is ready to be covered in fondant. So I'm using the same brown fondant that I made the goat's ears from. Just gonna roll this out and cover my cake. So my goat is now covered in fondant, and so I am going to add a white stripe down his face. So now I'm going to work on my goat's eyes. So I was trying to figure out this goat. What I figured out is they have kind of like small eyes when you see them from straight on, and they're almost like at the sides of their head. And I am gonna wanna flip this to make my left eye. So I'm gonna stick these on with a little bit of dab and hold. So I'm gonna cut this end off here because I do want these to be like at the side of the face. Go ahead and work on his nose. So I'm gonna go ahead and make some indentations here, like his little nostrils. So I'm just gonna use my Americolor food coloring pen, and I'm gonna add a little smile here. So before I add the rest of the details, I do want to get my goat head on to my cake. So you guys can see that I have a 2-layer 8-inch cake here. I already did this in my Patriots blue for like Tom Brady's jersey, and you can see that I actually did add just some cake dowels in here just to support the weight of this. So before I lift my cake, I'm gonna add a little bit of fresh buttercream so that it will stick. So I'm adding in a line here with my same food coloring pen before I add the ears. And I'm just gonna take some brown powdered food coloring and shade that in here to make it a little bit darker. And I'm just gonna place these. So to place the horns, what I'm gonna do is I think I'm going to put a cake pop stick so these actually just sit right on top of it. Adding just some cake pop sticks here because I feel like the weight of the ears are a little bit heavy. So just to give a little bit more support. So I'm gonna add my little billy goat beard here. So I think for this, I'm gonna add just some lines of texture here so it looks more like... So I feel like my goat needs a little bit of an eyebrow, so I'm just using some white buttercream and a small round tip. And I'm just going to go around the eye here. So what I want to do next is I do want to pipe just some buttercream around this edge to clean it up a little bit. Truth be told, I always have like a little bit of trouble with the very edge of fondant, and I feel like it never looks perfect, so often I will hide that with some buttercream. So the very last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my number 12 to the jersey part of the cake. So I'm just going to use my AmeriColor food coloring pen to add a little bit of red on the edge. Alright, so my goat cake is done. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, don't forget to like it and subscribe to my channel.